You underestimate the power of the dark side. If you will not fight, then you will meet your destiny.
Citizens, soldiers, I'm here at the order of General Robert E. Lee, commanding all Virginia forces. On April 15th of this year of our Lord, 1861, Simon Cameron, the Secretary of War of the United States, sent a telegram to our Governor, John Letcher, directing him to raise 3 regiments of infantry to be sent to assist in suppressing the Southern Confederacy. Governor Letcher's answer is well known to you, but perhaps not his words. His wire to Washington stated, "You have chosen to inaugurate civil war. And having done so, we will meet you in a spirit as determined as the Lincoln administration has exhibited toward the South." 2 days later, the Virginia legislature voted for secession. Just as we would not send any of our soldiers to march in other states and tyrannize other people, so will we never allow the armies of others to march into our state and tyrannize our people. Like many of you, indeed most of you, I've always been a Union man. It is not with joy or with a light heart that many of us have welcomed secession. Had our neighbors to the north practiced the less bellicose form of persuasion, perhaps this day might not have come, but that day has been thrust upon us, like it was thrust upon our ancestors. The Lincoln administration required us to raise 3 regiments. Tell them we have done so.
You cannot hide forever.
Well, no one's hiding here, but alas, it's been a while since I was able to do one. I think it's been about a month and a half. But yeah, it's been a busy month and a half for me. Working 11, 12, 13, sometimes 14-hour days does that to you. But anyway, we're going to jump right in here and see what all the news has to do. And there's got a little bit of trucker stuff I was told I should bring up. So we're going to bring that up for you too. I'll teach you log booking today. Anyway, so let's get to the news first because it's been a busy week. So the big news this week was the special election in Alabama, where apparently Alabama, for some reason, picked a baby killer over somebody being accused with no proof of sexual misconduct from 40 years ago. I don't know if the accusations are true. I'm not going to speak to them, but unless there's actual proof, it's innocent until proven guilty. And of course, my mic's being contrary this morning. We're also on Facebook Live. I don't know if the audio is coming through or not. I don't have any bars or anything on it to tell you if it is. So if you are watching on Facebook Live and you're getting no audio, you'll just have to let me know if what's going on there. But anyway, back to Roy Moore. He's refusing to concede the election. This will always surprise me with American politics. Why would you concede a loss anyway? If you lost, okay, you lost. Why do you call the other guy and say, "Oh, thank you. You ran a good campaign," when the other guy completely tried to demolish your character? I do not understand why we so-called play nice. Does the other side play nice when they lose? No, I don't believe Hillary actually technically ever conceded. I mean, I know she gave a speech about losing, but I believe she said it was the Russians' fault and didn't actually say, yeah, I screwed up on the campaign and that's why we lost. Not to mention, she was just a very unfavorable candidate altogether. But anyway, this article from Fox News goes into that. Republican Roy Moore is still not conceding defeat in Alabama's special election for a U.S. Senate seat 24 hours after Democrat Doug Jones claimed victory. Again, I don't know why we concede anything. Nothing's over until the state attorney general has certified the election to begin with. So it's stupid formalities. I don't know where this comes from. Maybe a better historian than me in politics could tell me that. In a video posted to YouTube on Wednesday evening, Moore says his campaign is still waiting for the election results to be certified by the Alabama Secretary of State, which is the process and won't be done until probably January sometime. Moore notes in the video that military and provisional ballots remained to be counted. Ballots from overseas can continue to come in until noon next Tuesday, Secretary of State John Merrill said, according to AL.com. Merrill said final results will be certified by the state canvassing board between December 26th and January 3rd. Election results showed that Jones defeated Moore by 49.9% to 48.4%. In most of the remainder of the nearly 5-minute long video, Moore thanks supporters and then lists numerous ills that he believes are plaguing the country. Abortion, sodomy, and materialism have taken the place of life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, he says. Even our political process has been affected with baseless and falseless allegations, which have become more relevant than the issues which affect our country. Well, I might disagree here. Those are the issues that affect the country. We have become so materialistic and so anti-God. It is ridiculous. And nothing will be fixed. There is no political solution to this. He later laments that the Alabama race was tainted by over 50 million from outside groups who want to retain power and their corrupt ideology. No longer is this about Republican or Democrat control. It has truly been said that there is not a dime's worth of difference between them. It is about a Washington establishment which will not listen to the cries of its citizenry. This election went down the way it did because Mitch McConnell did what he did. If Mitch McConnell never gets involved in this election, Republicans don't lose this seat. It's just ridiculous. Mitch McConnell needs to go. Kentucky, I do not understand why you keep electing that turd. Yeah, I called him a turd. That's what he is. He needs to go. He's almost as much of a Democrat as Schumer is. And y'all have been, between you and Alabama now being hoodwinked, I don't know how you ever get anything fixed in this country. I don't know. Maybe it's because I only live 120 miles from D.C., but I can tell you for a fact I saw this coming from a mile away. It's just ridiculous. You guys need to get your head out of the sand here and start waking up. All right. Now, on to the next story, which apparently going to take a few minutes to load. My computer's acting up, if you're wondering. That's why it's being a little slow. Watchdog reveals how ex-Mueller agents' anti-Trump texts came to light. Oh, this is just great.
There really was only one text messages that dominated this hearing, and it was a text message from August of 2016. It was sent by the FBI agent to the FBI lawyer. And in that text, he talks about a path she laid out in Andy's office. For some context, we believe Andy is Andrew McCabe, the deputy director of the FBI, and he's been controversial. As you know, his wife received in excess of $700,000 from a DNC PAC, as well as the Virginia Governor Terry McAuliffe, for a Senate race in 20.
Okay, so to catch you all up here, here's what's going on. The Republicans are investigating the FBI because it's starting to come out that the FBI was anti-Trump from day one. Oh no, shock. Who would have thought? I don't understand why this is news, but apparently now it is hitting the light of day that the liberal media can no longer cover this up. The text messages are coming out, and that's what they're getting to here. They're going back and forth with high-ranking members of the FBI, talking about how much they hate Trump. Trump can't be president. We can't have Trump as president, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera.
2015. The FBI agent Peter Strzok continues. He said, "We simply can't take that risk. It's like an insurance policy, and congressional investigators are focused on the text because."
Okay, now to bring you up to speed some more, Strzok is the same one that happened to interview Abedin and I forget the other girl's name, that were both Hillary's subordinates. They also should have been charged the same as Flynn for lying to the FBI. However, he gave them both immunity before having them testify. Convenient. Because they didn't have to actually testify against anybody doing anything in order to maintain their immunity, which is highly unusual. I mean, there's collusion all over the place here, or so it would seem.
Because they're looking at an issue of possible coordination or a conspiracy. And you take that text, some of the others you mentioned, and you couple that with political donations by members of the special counsel's team to the DNC and the Clinton.
So you're starting to find out here that the basically Mueller's team, whether Mueller's directly involved or indirectly involved, he's the man in charge. So it's going to come back to him. Everything rises and falls on leadership. This is known. This is a fact. It always happens this way. The company goes under, it's the CEO's fault. It's always that way. This is coming back. It's going to come home to roost. It's coming out now that almost all of Mueller's team was either a Democrat supporter or worked on the Hillary investigation on how to get her off. It's starting to look very clearly that the FBI never had any intention of ever charging Hillary with any wrongdoing, and all they wanted to do was to put the kibosh on any possibility of any actual charges being filed. Because let's be honest, there is so much that they could have charged her with, and they just didn't do it. I don't know.
Clinton campaign, and this is what led to a series of heated exchanges with the Deputy Attorney General.
How with a straight face can you say that this group of Democrat partisans are unbiased and will give President Trump a fair shake?
Congressman, I think it's important to recognize that when we talk about political affiliation, that all demonstrates political affiliation. The issue of bias is something different. I've discussed this with Director Mueller, and he and I collectively have a lot of experience managing offices in the Department of Justice.
The Deputy Attorney General emphasized throughout the hearing that the special counsel, Robert Mueller, immediately fired Agent Strzok as soon as he became aware of these anti-Trump texts. And he also revealed that they first learned about these texts.
Okay, do we not do background checks on these people? Come on, we're just going to randomly. This is like we're going to pick guys for a baseball team here. Who wants to pitch? Okay, you can be the pitcher. Oh wait, you can't pitch, so we're no longer going to have you as pitcher. You know, this is the type of stuff this team seems to be doing. I think Congress should just disband this whole witch hunt to begin with. This is a waste of taxpayer money.
Texts through the Inspector General's investigation. And just for some more context, the Inspector General was looking at not only the actions of FBI Director Comey, but also the actions of his deputy, Andrew McCabe. So taking that all together today, the Deputy Attorney General simply was not enough for other Republicans.
I'm not aware of any impropriety. We do have regulations. The special counsel is subject to all the department's rules and subject to oversight by the department, including the Inspector General. I'm not aware of any violation of those rules by the special counsel employees.
So you don't think it creates the appearance of impropriety?
Well, appearance is to some extent in the eye of the beholder.
As you would expect this.
Yeah, as we'll get into later with my law book, the appearance of me not telling the truth on the law book is a perjury charge here. I do not understand why certain people in government are held to different standards than people that actually have to work for a living. But I digress.
Hearing really divided along political lines. The Democrats at one point seemed to defend the FBI agent, saying that he was simply expressing in those text messages what many Americans felt about candidate Trump.
Nor is there anything wrong with FBI agents expressing their private political views via private text message, as Peter Strzok and Lisa Page appeared to have done in the 375 text messages we received last night. In fact, department regulations expressly permit that sort of private communication. Peter Strzok did not say anything about Donald Trump that the majority of Americans weren't also thinking at the same time.
Democrats also raised the issue of sort of sexual harassment allegations made against Mr. Trump before he was a candidate and before he was president. And the Deputy Attorney General said if people felt they had credible claims and evidence, they are welcome to bring that to the Justice Department. But he made no commitment to investigate those allegations, Harris.
This is just, that part's turning into a witch hunt too. But yeah, it's. This is just getting ridiculous. People, first they start off with the Russian collusion.
New Orleans Saints fan and season.
As soon as I get the videos to pause, first they go after the Russian collusion. Nothing sticks there. Now they're going back all the way to the campaign to comments made back in the 90s that Trump made in a bus over sexual harassment. There was no women in the bus, but that's beside the point. It was a man talking to another man. This is just going way too far. And I just hope the Republicans remember all this, that when the next Democrat gets elected, they hold the Democrat to the same standards. We know they won't, because they actually would have preferred Hillary to have won in the first place. But, you know, here we go. Fun, fun, fun. But that brings us up to our first break. So we'll be right back after this. I tell you, here was one that I dug up from Fox. Didn't really get much coverage on the actual news, I don't think, but it was an article that I found. I thought it was interesting. Apparently, a worker got fired for bringing a cooler with KKK and Confederate flag stickers to a job site. Okay. Let's see. A worker at a city contracted job site in Milwaukee is now jobless after his cooler with offensive Ku Klux Klan and Confederate flag stickers was spotted, city officials said. The unidentified worker was fired 3 days after a photograph surfaced on social media of the cooler at a job site at North 25th Street and West Wells Street. The Milwaukee Journal-Sentinel reports. Public Works Commissioner Gaston Corbin wrote in an email Monday to several aldermen indicating that he spoke with the site's contractor several times and confirmed that the owner of the cooler had been terminated. Corbin now wants the contractor, American Sewer Services, to develop policies to prevent this from happening again. I'm pretty sure that they already had the policy in effect to begin with, which is probably why the guy got fired. Now some are going, well, Dan, don't you like the Confederacy? Yeah, I love the Confederacy. In fact, this is General Lee's flag behind me. The issue here is, though, I don't get to take this flag into work with me. I don't take this flag into work with me because when I'm at work, it's not my views I'm projecting, it's my employer's. So this guy took the Confederate flag sticker into work to where he knew that his employer probably was not going to be very happy with it. This also goes back to the NFL kneeling for the anthem. You're on the job. You have a certain level of decorum, a certain level of responsibility. You're not there on your personal time. Now, as soon as he walked off the job site, sure, he can stick that sticker anywhere that he can legally stick that sticker on his truck, what have you, but not on the job site. Milwaukee Alderman Bob Bauman. Of course, now we got to get government involved because he was on a government contract. So now the city's got to somehow be involved in this instead of saying, okay, the situation's handled, go about your business. But now it's a political spectacle. So now they got to get involved here. Milwaukee Alderman Bob Bauman said city officials confirmed to him that the cooler belonged to an employee from American Sewer Services. For one, he works on the sewer. But anyway, the same company whose workers were photographed carrying guns at a different construction site last week. Okay, I'm not aware of Minnesota law, but in Pennsylvania, there's nothing illegal about me carrying a firearm on the job. Nothing. As long as my employer does not mind me carrying the gun, I can carry the gun. The state has no say in the matter. Now, I have to have the proper permits. Even though my state constitution says my right shall not be questioned, I still have to have the proper permit, which I do. But alas, if this company sees fit to hire individuals who basically either subscribe to, belong to, or are sympathetic with terrorist organizations, we're going to have to take some action on a city level, Bauman told the station. Mr. Bauman, now you are aware that the last time the Ku Klux Klan actually burned anything, I believe, was in the 60s. The last time your beloved BLM, on the other hand, burned something, I believe, was last summer. So you got to be very careful here, bud. I'm just saying you're going to open up a hornet's nest because in all reality, the BLM people should be labeled a terrorist. And the Ku Klux Klan, I don't believe, were ever officially labeled a terrorist. But we know where you stand. The photo and resulting controversy prompted someone to vandalize the job site. So now we have somebody engaging in an actual crime. The bringing of the cooler onto the job site is not a crime. However, vandalizing is a crime. But that's okay, because they scrawled the words racist and go home on the construction equipment because they were so incensed over a sticker. But do you hear anything about charges being filed? Investigation being done? No. But we'll fire a worker for a cooler with a sticker on it. Let that sink in for a minute. That's the problem, people. We are firing people for stickers while we have other people breaking onto construction sites and vandalizing equipment, and nothing is done. There is no rule of law. We might as well. There was an episode of Orville, if you guys will ever watch Orville, where it was a society that was completely run a pure, what they call a pure democracy. Everybody got a vote. And this episode started off with these two guys from the quote union, which is their version of the Federation, that were observing this 21st century culture incognito, kind of blending in among the people. And they didn't see a pregnant woman standing on the bus. And they were seated down, which is rude. However, they didn't realize that she was even there. But because this civilization was so into social media and pure democracy, somebody took a picture of it. And they got their IDs because you had to wear a badge, which doesn't sound very democratic, but you had to wear a badge. And it had a like and a dislike button on it. And you would hit the like button if they did something awesome. And you'd hit the dislike button if they did something you didn't agree with, such as not giving their seat up to a pregnant woman. Well, they believed that they should alter your brain so that it would never offend anybody anymore. That's what we're becoming. A spokeswoman for the city's Department of Public Works, meanwhile, said the stickers were offensive to Milwaukee Mayor Tom Barrett and city agencies. Yeah, okay. Apparently the city agents don't like the First Amendment, but of course the First Amendment doesn't apply here, but that's beside the point. They're government. They need to get thicker skins. Gets a little ridiculous to me how I got to bend over backwards to keep them happy, but they don't have to do anything to keep me happy. And I have to pay their salaries. Go figure. All right. Yeah, now we get into the good stuff here. The GOP says it's got a deal on taxes. Cuts coming for next year. Oh, anytime I get to keep more of my money and don't have a jackbooted thug at my front door, which is right behind here, telling me I need to pay him more money, is a good day. I don't really care how they cut the taxes. I just want the taxes cut. I don't think I should be taxed at all. Taxation is theft after all. Oh, this comes out of the Washington AP. Confident congressional Republicans. Now, we use that term lightly. Ford should agree. Well, actually, no, they're actually being real Republicans here, because if you knew anything about the historic Republican Party, you would know how relevant this is. Forged an agreement Wednesday on a major overhaul of the nation's tax laws that would provide generous tax cuts for corporations and the wealthiest Americans. Donald Trump among them. I like how the AP shoved that one in there. Donald Trump will get a tax break. Well, okay. Everybody's getting a tax break. So what? Donald Trump should allow legislation to be passed where he's exempted? Whatever happened to equal standing under the law? Why does my income give me more or less standing? Shouldn't it be like, I don't know, a flat 5%? Oh, wait. That would mean the poor would get taxed. We can't have that. Oh, I know. I'm sorry. I erred. My bad. and deliver the first major legislative accomplishment to the GOP president, which is because the Republicans are blocking everything in the Senate. Yeah, Mitch could force a lot of this stuff through, but he doesn't want it. I know. That's a shock to most of you, but that's the actual truth. Middle and low income families will get smaller tax cuts. Well, they pay less in taxes to begin with. So, yeah, their tax cut would be smaller. Because, again, like I said, the taxes should be, if we're going to have to pay taxes, which I disagree that we even should have to pay, it should be a flat rate across the board. I don't know. Something along the lines of 0.5 percentage point. That sounds reasonable to me. It's more than enough to run it. Oh, wait, we can't fund our wars to foreign countries that most people can't point on a map. Well, I can point to on a map, but geography was one of my favorite subjects. The measure would scrap a major tax requirement of Barack Obama's Affordable Care Act, a step towards the ultimate GOP goal of unraveling the law. The GOP could have unraveled the law. Literally. Mitch McConnell could have just said, we're no longer doing a filibuster. We're going to do away with it. Simple majority vote, 51 votes, bam, done. But Republicans who passed how many, like 60-some laws or 60-some bills last year of repealing Obamacare, couldn't figure out how to pass the exact same bill with the exact same members of Congress. I know. Can you believe that? Oh, wait. If they passed it, it'd be the same thing as abortion. They couldn't run on it the next cycle. Come on, people. Y'all being duped here. The cynical voices that oppose tax cuts grow smaller and weaker, and the American people grow stronger. Trump said at the White House, this is for people of middle income. This is for companies that are going to create jobs. This is for very, very special people, the great people of America. Mr. Trump, all taxation is theft. I don't care if you're rich, poor, middle class, upper class, lower class. You're broke, you're rich. I don't care. Taxation is theft. Anytime you take money from somebody against their will, it's theft. In fact, actually, in this in our current government, it's not just theft, it's armed robbery. Because if you don't pay, they will show up with guns. And if you don't pay, they will arrest you. And if you resist arrest, they will shoot you. You don't have a choice. This isn't the land of the free and the home of the brave anymore, as we'll get to in another story I have. This is all about you will pay your money, you will put a smile on your face, and you will be happy, citizen. Do you hear me, citizen? The business tax cuts would be permanent, but reductions for individuals would expire after a decade. So we go right back to the same situation. The business tax cuts are permanent. No problem there. Shouldn't be taxing businesses to begin with. If we are, it should be on trade like they originally set up in the Philadelphia Convention, that they would tax tariffs and duties, tariffs, and imports. But alas, we can't go to war all over the world without this money. We can't fund people to live at home and suckle off the federal government's teat if we don't get this extra money. Even though we're going to just print it in the basement anyway, but you guys get the idea. The legislation saving money to comply with Senate budget rules. Again, budget rules can be changed. Like any rule, the controlling party gets to set the rules. So don't buy into this the Senate budget rules. No, the Senate can change the budget rules at Mitch McConnell's pleasure because Mitch McConnell is the majority leader and the majority party gets to set the rules. This has been established for 200 plus years. Mitch McConnell doesn't want you to know that because then he might actually have to go back to Kentucky, where the Kentuckians have all been duped into believing that he's this great guy, and actually have to explain to them why he's not such a great guy. In all, the bill would cut taxes by about $1.5 trillion over the next 10 years, adding billions to the nation's mounting debt. Whoop-de-doo-da-day. You're printing money. You don't care about the debt. The Democrats didn't care about the debt when they were in charge. The Republicans don't care about the debt now. The debt is a moot point. Just let it go. Just ignore it. It doesn't matter. Wait for the collapse. The legislation, which is still being finalized, would cut the top rate for the wealthy from 39.6% to 37%. So we're talking about 2.5% cut. Slash the corporate income tax from 35 to 21, which would still, from my knowledge, be the highest in the world. We're going from the highest to the highest. We're just not quite as high. And allow homeowners to deduct interest only on the first $750,000 of a new mortgage. Okay, I don't know about you guys. Maybe there's a wealthy listener in here that has a mortgage of over $750,000. I don't know, but that's really a moot point. In order to get the income tax deduction, I send the federal government 10 grand and get back 3 grand. Pay off your debt, pay off all your debt, and go from paying the government the $9,000 and getting like the $3,000 back, and pay the government the $3,000 and keep the other $6,000. I mean, I'm just a trucker, but my calculator still works. Why would I pay a bank $6 grand more to get 3 grand from the government? Yeah, simple math here. The top tax rate currently applies to income above $470,000 for married couples. Though lawmakers are reworking the tax brackets. Again, like I said before, there should be no tax brackets. The standard deduction would be nearly doubled to $24,000. Great. I get to keep roughly the first $25,000 I make out of my $100,000. I'm awesome. That's just awesome. Details of the agreement. Well, that's for married couples. The details of the agreement were described by Republican senators and congressional aides. It's not my vision of the perfect, but again, this is definitely going to be a strong pro-growth tax package. Said Senator Ron Johnson. Senator Johnson, if you want a strong economy and you want a perfect tax cut, abolish the IRS and do away with taxes. This is not impossible. It can be done. I can show you how it can be done, but you're going to have to cut from other sources in order to pull it off. Sources that for you may be untenable. Republicans see passage of the legislation as a political imperative, proving to voters they can govern as a okay. Like we discussed before, the Republicans have no desire to govern. They only have desire to rule and have power. If they were to lose their power, they'd have no desire. You would see the Republicans go right back to where they were when they were fighting Obama and calling for his impeachment. They would go right back to that party because the Republicans don't care about you. The Democrats don't care about you. The only thing they care about is power. And until you all get that through your head, nothing's ever going to change. Federal Reserve Chair Janet Yellen said she and her colleagues expect a modest lift to the economy. Okay, the economy's run by complete debt here, people. Anyway, Yellen said at a news conference the likelihood of lower taxes is why Fed officials expect the economy to grow at 2.5% in 2018, but growth would then slip back closer to its recent 2% average. She said that any wage growth would likely stem from the low unemployment rate rather than the tax cuts. Negotiators have removed several controversial provisions from the tax bill, including one that would have eliminated the deduction for interest on student loans. Again, students shouldn't be taking loans. There should be no such thing as a student loan. But, yeah, oh well. and another deduction for medical expenses, said two congressional aides. Also, the bill will no longer start taxing graduate school tuition waivers, said the aides, who spoke on condition of anonymity because they were not authorized to publicly discuss private negotiations. The tax bill would scale back the deduction for state and local taxes, allowing families to deduct only up to a total of $10,000 in property and income taxes, which if you live in New York City, you're going to pay more in taxes because you live in a state that doesn't know how to balance its books and thinks that you owe them money. Business owners who report business income on their personal taxes would be able to deduct 20% of that income. The bill would repeal the mandate that most Americans get health insurance, a provision of the 2010 healthcare law, which was unconstitutional. Republicans suffered a humiliating defeat this past summer when they were unable to dismantle the healthcare law. Blah, 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 blah. Some things are never going to change here. But anyway, we're up against the break, so we'll be right back after this. point here, people. They're trying to say that Verizon is going to go in there and charge like Netflix and Hulu more money. Or that they're going to say, okay, we'll do YouTube, but we won't do Hulu. Or we'll do Netflix, but we won't do Hulu. Or we'll do Hulu and we won't do Netflix. It's ridiculous. This is the same. They're going back to the same rules that they had for the TV, which is why if you have like Dish Network or DirecTV, every now and then you'll see a little pop-up where it goes, oh, we're arguing with the local networks on how much we're going to pay them in order to keep broadcasting, which is, but anyway, you guys get the idea. The Thursday vote, which would be today, the Thursday vote scheduled at the FCC could usher in big changes in how Americans use the internet. It's a radical departure from more than a decade of federal oversight. It's not been an actual decade. It's been maybe 5 years. The FCC passed these rules during the Obama administration. Last I checked, Obama got sworn in 9 years ago, 8 years ago, eight point whatever. So it hasn't been a decade. The broadband industry promises that the internet experience isn't going to change, but protests have erupted online and in the streets as everyday Americans worry that cable and phone companies will be able to control what they see and do online. That is possible. They could do that. They most likely were already doing that and you never realized it because you don't know what you're missing until you figure out you're missing it. Opponents of the FCC move plan legal challenges. Some net neutrality supporters hope to ride that wave of public opinion into the 2018 elections. FCC's a bureaucratic agency. The reason why they passed net neutrality was because they were worried that places like Verizon, Comcast, CenturyLink, the internet providers, otherwise known as ISPs, would control the content that you get when you're surfing the internet. The government does that for you anyway, whether you know it or not. And the ISPs do it because it's a bandwidth issue. So net neutrality went in there and it was supposed to be a fix because the problem is that the ISPs are monopolies now because of the regulations passed by, you guessed it, the FCC. So if you eliminate the FCC, then you'll have mom and pops start popping up with ISPs and they'll provide your internet. And then you could have more choice. Like, okay, in my area where I'm at, we have two ISPs for broadband. I have CenturyLink and I have Blue Ridge Cable. Those are the only two. You don't have any more choices. It doesn't matter if I want Comcast. I can't get Comcast where I'm at because I have Blue Ridge. Or I have CenturyLink. CenturyLink seems to be statewide. Comcast and Blue Ridge swap back and forth depending on what borough you're in, what county you're in, etc. Which isn't a huge deal, but it is an annoyance. So that is where we're at with that. Now, the fun stuff here. For the Facebook Live people, this is called a logbook. You guys here on YouTube can see this. This is a logbook. This is what we used to have to fill out. Now we have to fill out like a cell phone. But this is what DOT looks at. We would put the date, how many miles we drove, how many team miles we drove, our ID numbers, our equipment numbers, our manifest numbers, which I'll tell you, that's a pain in the, or no, that's the co-driver. Vehicle number, co-driver, and then manifest number. And if you get them confused, don't worry. It's only a fine. Then you had to go down here. Now here's where it gets tricky. Off-duty time, this is the top line here. You know, pretty self-explanatory. It's when you're off duty, right? Here's your sleeper berth. That sleeper berth line was for when you were in the sleeper. When you were supposed to be behind the curtain, as it were, not doing any work. Which, if you're a truck driver, you know full well your boss was still calling you and everything while you were in the sleeper berth, which she's not supposed to do. But anyway, that's the sleeper berth. Then you have your driving, and then you have your own duty time. Well, when you go down, when you come off one or two here and go down to 3 or 4, it automatically starts what's known as a 14-hour clock. The 14-hour clock says that from when I start work, say I start work at 1 in the morning, I can't work past 3 in the afternoon. I have 14 hours to complete my run. Now, I can be on duty past the 14th hour, but I cannot drive past the 14th hour. Now, it also, once I hit the drive line, starts another clock. This clock, the 14-hour clock cannot be started and stopped. Okay. The drive clock can be started and stopped. So the drive clock, I have 11 hours to do my driving for the day. After 11 hours, I have to park the truck. I have to get out of the truck. I'm done for the day. I cannot drive a commercial motor vehicle anymore that day until I've had 10 hours off. But what it also starts is when I first come on duty, it starts what's known as an 8-hour clock. The 8-hour clock is the clock at which I must take a 30-minute lunch break off duty or in the sleeper berth before I drive past my 8th hour. So I have 14 hours to do everything I need to do. But because of the break I have to take, I have 13 and a half hours to do everything I need to do. Then, on top of those 4 or 5 clocks, I have another clock called a 60 or 70-hour clock. I can work up to 70 hours in 8 days or 60 hours in 7 days, which comes out to roughly 8 hours a day, 8 to 10 hours a day, somewhere in there. I think the last time I did the math was like 8.5 hours. So, but in order to be legal, quote unquote, these are no longer legal because you have to do electronics as of 4 days from now. We have to sign them. We have to flag our city and state where we stopped. So we had to tell law enforcement where we were. And they would actually take this book back to the squad car. They would look up on the map point A to point B, look up all the speed limits, and they could actually fine you for speeding based on this law book. If there was any thing wrong with this law book, like they thought you were falsifying this law book, it's a perjury charge, punishable by 2 years in federal prison. Now, did that stop anybody? Not really. But anyway, they do the same thing with the electronic logs. We still, or I don't, because I don't get paid to, but there are still companies out there that manipulate the logs in order to get done what they need to get done. But yeah, that's logging. If you got any questions on logging, hit me up. I can go more in depth here. But yeah, basically any problem you had, you got held up by weather, didn't matter. You got held up in traffic, doesn't matter. So I mean, literally with the new regulations and everything the way it is, if I were to go into New York City and I'm on Long Island and I go to Farmingdale, which is where the company I work at has a terminal, I'm on my way back. There's a fatal car wreck on the 495. All lanes shut down. I cannot move the truck. I get what's known as a 16-hour rule for an unforeseen circumstance. However, here's the kicker. 16-hour rule only works to the next safe spot to park the truck. So, I'm in New York City. Where's the, quote, next safe spot to park the truck? Because I guarantee you, your definition of a safe spot to park and DOT's definition of a safe spot to park are going to be two incredibly different things. And it's all up to officers' discretion. So it's next to impossible for you to obey half the stuff. But it's very confusing. I've been doing it for many years. And like I said, if you got any questions on it, hit me up. I can answer pretty much anything you got. If not, I can find it. And I'll be bringing you tidbits like this before. I was gonna pull up an air horn, but YouTube was all people showing off their air horns, so I got to do more searching. And it's not like I can go to work to do it because my company pulled all our air horns out because we're the friendly trucking company. Yeah. But anyway, this has been the Bailey Report. I'll get the right name here eventually. This is the Bailey Report. Signing off on the Cerberus Radio Network. Stay tuned. Suzanne will have a live show at 10 o'clock right here. Don't touch that dial. You'll be treated to either this one will replay or there'll be another one replay on the for the next hour for that. So until we talk again, have a nice day. Okay, I'm getting messages from the other host, but anyway, and we'll see you this Saturday. Again, stay tuned for Suzanne. She'll be up in an hour.
you